Yo ma, and welcome to the PAC Show, proudly brought to you by PAC Athletic Club and DoubleTake Sports, the show that brings you all the highlights, the lowlights, the reviews, the previews, the news, and the interviews from rugby here in Australia and around the world. My name is Jay Bohr, and tonight we are packed tighter than a dolphin's arsehole here at the studio because we have Dos, we have Dal. We've also got the Battlers bench containing the Kill Switch and Big Fat Das, but we're also joined by 2011 Queensland Reds championship duo, Will Gagnon, Digby Ioane. Yeah! Woo-hoo! Hell yeah, lads. How we doing? Thanks for joining us.
No, good. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
No, this is, we were only expecting you, Will, but Diggers, you decided to pop in. How good?
Yeah, he told me it's a dinner and I'm here.
Gotta get him out of the house somehow.
No, Will also told us that you're going to do the turtle right there.
I
He promised us.
No, he hasn't got any more. You should see him in the gym. It's embarrassing. He's slow now too. I beat him in a race recently, so.
This is huge, man. I mean, we've got a hell of a lot to get through. I mean, we didn't have any international footy to get to, but there was a few boil-overs in Clubland. Dos will be getting to that, don't you worry. But we've got you two guys here to run through a few of the things we saw in Clubland. There's some big news coming out of the All Blacks camp. They are in disarray, and I'm loving every second of it, to be brutally honest. There's some big signings at the Reds and the Brumbies and so on as well. And Big Tino was able to make his way down to Sydney over the weekend to catch the Battle of the Beaches and the West Side Derby. So
he's got some Crocs too.
Yeah.
Welcome to the fam, Tino.
You look like you're about to chirp up there, friends.
I don't know, mate. I don't know how they've got ones to fit the girth of his feet. Engineering marvel. And seriously, he had a pair of Havanas for God knows how long. Like, they just need to, if they want to test anything, put them on his feet. See how these goes.
Well, Tino's given us the wrap it up sign. Let's get straight into it. First and foremost, we saw, we were discussing it last week, Ian Foster, was his job safe? Turns out his job's fine. His assistants have been rissoled and given the arse. John Plumtree and was it Brad Moore have been shown the door, DOS. And Fozzie's kept his job. What's doing, man?
And I'm not too sure, but I think there was always going to be repercussions coming out of that series. New Zealand treating rugby the way that it is, putting it up on that sort of pedestal, the religion that it is over there. Something had to give. I think.
It's the assistants.
I mean,
defense coach.
Unfortunately, man. John Plumtree, and to be honest, I don't know who Brad Moore is.
He was the backs coach. Plumtree was forwards. Brad Moore was backs.
Yeah,
essentially.
Any Super Rugby experience? Not sure.
No, yes, Crusaders.
Oh, he was at the
Crusaders. Yes.
See, that's why Digby's here.
Yeah, we're all here.
Yeah.
We all have no idea.
Yeah, to clarify
Thank
the
you very
shit talk
much.
But
yeah, go on.
No, I just think there was definitely something had to come out of that series in New Zealand. I mean, but so much has been said about how bad the Kiwis are and not enough about how good Ireland was, in my opinion.
Yes.
I mean, they were excellent, but, that's just the way, that's how serious they take their rugby. And, yeah, unfortunately for John Plumtree and Brad Moore, they probably volunteered to take the heat off Ian Foster. Very noble act.
Stupid act, if you ask me. Dow, I got to get your opinion, man. Like, what does Razor Robinson have to do? Because now his assistant is now being promoted to the All Blacks.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's the guy for the job, but at the same time, maybe they feel like Foster needs to give it a fair crack at it, maybe through to the World Cup. But I think Razor Robinson's the guy moving forward. Obviously, he's been talked about in the England job moving forward beyond Eddie. Maybe he wants to keep his options open and keep there, but I think Razor Robinson's the way forward.
It would be one of the all-time bedshit screens if they lost Razor Robinson to the Poms.
Yeah. Mate, I love it. Keep Foster in as long as possible. Keep him up the next World Cup too, mate. He's got to work with, he's the first time he's coached the All Blacks head coach, so, I think they need to give him time, be patient, But, yeah, the defence coach sucked me. It's a load of bolt.
Yeah, just got shown the door. Well, Will, I mean, I want to get your thoughts on this, obviously, because you're one of the most accomplished footy players in Australian rugby history. You went through, obviously, there was the tumultuous, I guess, coaching tenure that we saw with, say, Robbie Deans. He was in a similar position to Razor Robinson, had to move on, came here. And there was a lot of chat that there was maybe a bit of a disconnect. He was the first sort of foreign Wallabies head coach. Do you think, like, he's now obviously playing his trade over in Japan. Do you think if they were to lose someone like Razor Robertson, would they sort of regret it as much as they probably regret the way that Robbie Deans was sort of shown the door?
I mean, it's an interesting one because they probably regret letting Dave Rennie go as well because of the success he had. True. I know they were keeping tabs on him when he was over in Scotland when he was coaching Glasgow. But because they tend to do that quite well. They keep their coaches close, even though they go overseas, because they like to keep an eye on them to see if they can bring them back in the fold. But, I mean, touching on the whole coaching sort of sackings or whatever it is, resignations, I think something had to give, like Dos was saying. The reason I can understand that it was probably the assistants is because a similar thing happened with Michael Cheika in the lead up to the World Cup in 2019, where Bernie Larkham got the sack. And it wasn't necessarily because he wasn't doing a good job, because I think in the years prior to that, it wasn't our attack that was suffering, it was our defense. But I think part of it is to put at bay like public perception. People are knocking down the door saying he needs to go, he needs to go. So they've got to ease the tension from the public, while also then probably giving a different voice to the players, because the messages that the coaches are giving probably aren't sinking in. Yeah. And it must be said, like, it's hard to build a culture within an international environment. What is it, 18 months out from a World Cup? Because you only ever get them for that international period, whereas at a club, for example, you have them the entire year.
Yeah.
So I can understand why they've kept Foster and probably got rid of the assistants. I can see that might work for them moving forward.
It is tumultuous in New Zealand rugby. Speaking of tumultuous, did anybody see Justin Marshall and Akira Iwani trying to tee off on each other too? Who do you reckon will win that fight, Big Fat Das?
Akira, but
but I'm backing Marshall.
Oh,
really?
He's got the half.
Mate, first of all, he's a big guy, and he also loves the piss. So he can. From all reports, he can throw him.
Lose.
From all reports, he can throw him.
Well, apparently, Fox Sports they reviewed it or whatever, or Sky Sports, and went, nah, it's all good. So Justin Marshall's kept his job. It's all sweet. Well, they're happy with it.
Probably just. I saw some article where Justin Marshall was like throwing chat, or someone was throwing chat about how he should never have been in the jersey, or he's disgraced the jersey or something. So maybe something like that was said, and Akira's just.
From all accounts, Justin Marshall was chirping off hard to
just
the
a
All
little half.
Blacks.
It's a
And then
halfback.
during the
You
week,
just gotta
he was
go,
actually on the Breakdown show and actually said that he reckons there's a few players in that squad who didn't deserve to be.
And you reckon he told him personally after a couple of.
He would have had a skin full of diesel and let him know.
Full halfback.
Classic halfback.
Full halfback.
Classic.
Just getting under his
Just leave it alone. Sometimes pull him back.
I wouldn't argue with him. He's massive, and he's an all-time great. So I'd be like, yep, Justin, I shouldn't be there.
It would be weird if you were there, to be honest. But I don't know. Long story short, it's not been a very good couple of weeks for the All Blacks, Dos.
No, it hasn't. And I mean, I think that's just frustration, manifesting itself in the way that Akira's probably chirping up at Justin Marshall. I think, he's known to, as the boys have alluded to, he's known to speak his mind and be a bit chirpy, as all good halfbacks are. And I think he strikes me as one of those guys who, when things aren't going well, is quick to give his opinions on why things aren't going well, and he's not afraid to call a spade a spade.
I love it.
Just throwing shade. Not afraid to call a spade, and especially after a few drinks, when you're relaxed and you're not really thinking straight. I reckon he probably told a few of those All Blacks, exactly how he felt, and led to that little altercation.
Oh man. You'd have to have a big set of hangers on you to go after Akira Iwani. Oh, mate. That's absolutely brutal. And we also saw, Friends, you were able to get out there. Tonga qualifying for the World Cup, 44-22 over Hong Kong.
Yes.
What do you reckon? What are your thoughts? Were Hong Kong, were they much chop?
Oh, we just muck you around, man. We just went out there, put some shot on. It's no problem.
Digby, this is, yep.
No, it was up. No, I got a media pass.
Keep going.
Yeah, so we start pretty well. The ref was racist. 2 tries immediately disallowed for no reason. Not pointing any fingers, but someone's brother over here. Yeah. Damon Murphy. Nah, they were pretty yeah, proper try everything, mate. It was a good game. I had a media pass.
How? How?
I'll run you through it. So I was just chilling, and then I got a message from some bird who's a journalist, and she's all of a sudden the Pacific Islander correspondent for ABC. And she messaged me saying, one of the boys I went to school with pointed me in the right putting me, I don't know if it's the right direction, to a direction saying that you know a bit about footy and stuff. Can you help me? Do you want to come up to the coast and watch the Tonga Hong Kong game? I was like, absolutely. I'll do it for a carton. So I went up there, and she was like, I have no idea about rugby. I'm like, oh, she must, know a bit. Mate, she had no idea. What was that? And I'm like, that was a maul. Yeah, like it was pretty funny. She got right around it, but yeah, the Tongan supporters is awesome. Everyone was very vocal and coming in droves, considering there was absolutely no advertisement. The old Coconut Wireless went pretty well and got out there.
So did you have to write a post-match report or anything?
She did.
Oh, she did.
It's on live. It's live online. I should have bloody shared it.
Oh, so you were there just as like a translator of sorts.
Basically.
A rugby translator.
Yeah. So who was that? And I was like, oh, that was Tima Whanganuku. And she's like, Whainga what? Yeah. Bloody Parangi's, man. Yeah, so it was awesome. But yeah, the Tongans, they started really well. And then, they sort of got in a bit of disarray. But, mate, there were some massive hits.
Yeah, that shot Tima put on, I think, in the 70th minute.
Mate,
one of the best blindside shots you're ever going to see.
The best thing was, the reason why Hong Kong scored a couple of tries towards the end is because you just see all the Tongans just veering in, like, in defence. And there would have been, like, a 20-man overlap. They were just trying to go for the massive shots towards the end, but... Good to watch.
They now join, I think it's Georgia, Ireland, Scotland, and South Africa in Pool B. So, I mean...
What a pool.
That is a hell of a pool, and Tonga's fortunes haven't been the best of late, Dow, but they're going to struggle in that pool, surely.
Yeah, it'd be tough. Obviously, it's a pretty tough pool. But
well, mate, Georgia's now killing it over in Europe as well.
But I think a lot of the pools are pretty competitive these days as well, right? There's no
Testament
easy
to the
games.
game, you'd say.
Yeah, it's grown a lot in the minor nations, and it's exciting. I think next year's World Cup will be one of the best.
Bloody oath. Well, Diggers, we've seen recently Moana Pacifica and the Fijian and Drua making their way into the Super Rugby competition. You've got so many Pacific Islander players who maybe probably wouldn't have been able to get a Guernsey or get highlighted, getting represented pretty highly on the world stage. It's got to be awesome for the game.
I think it's great. Just for the Pacific people in Australia, I guess. I think that Fijian team, I don't know how long they've been together for, but they're beating teams like the Rebels, been gone for the last, over 10 years.
Yeah.
And they're just dominating. You can just see, you could have the best players like at the Rebels, but you still lose. But Fiji, it's a small island and they're kicking ass.
Yeah.
So it's just opportunities. For me, I love seeing that. And they just come out of nowhere and just killing everyone.
Mate, and it's translating to their national side as well. Probably didn't have the Pacific Nations Cup they would have wanted, but you saw glimpses of just the cohesion that you really haven't seen from the Islander nations. I mean, we were talking after that first game against, I think it was Tonga, where they dismantled them 36-0. Their set piece was sublime, but they look like they're just getting runs on the boards, and their cohesion is just next level.
It's good rugby. It's fun to watch, and it's they have a culture. I think it starts with the players, and if you can build within what's around you, I think you've got a good team there, and it starts. And I think they're just grateful to even get that opportunity, and it means so much to to the Pacific Island. Like even myself, like putting on a jersey for Australia, like not just representing Australia, representing my country as well, Samoa, same as well, PNG. So it means a lot, to see they've taken it to the next level where they inviting the Fijians or whoever the Moana Pacific. I think it's a game changer. So yeah, I'm just glad to see there's opportunities for these Pacific Islanders.
I think they've got to start belting a lot of teams from pillar to post, And you've got like a lot of players as well, like Issa Droa Sese signed back over with the Fijian and Drua now. I think you got to probably start to see a few. Like there's the opportunity, the pathway now in the actual island nations to actually progress through there, which I think is just going to be awesome for them. And I can't help but think that Lex is going to come back and absolutely start tearing ribbons from the Reds, and it kills me because he's a gun. Another one. So we've seen now the touring squad for the Argentina tour for the Wallabies has been announced. There's some big ins. Dossie boy, you're going to love it. Jock Campbell's gotten the call up. Matt Gibbon, Big Ponde, Fa'amal Sili, Ire Simone, Lalakai Fiketti also added. They were to be expected. Fiketti definitely. But good to see Jock Campbell, after that Pacific Nations Cup, actually getting the deserves he
exactly.
deserves.
Finally gets recognised. I think he's been consistently performing well over the last couple of years. Me and Dal obviously big advocates of young Jock. And yeah, mate, it's reward for, the efforts that he's been put in, the efforts that he has put in. And mate, it's good to see, and some might say it's, from a lack of other options at 15. But when one door closes, another opens. So I'm sure Jockey, and the good thing about him, and what I love about Jock Campbell is he's one of those guys who's, he's come through the actual pathway. He played Colts for uni, he played reserve grade, did his time at Premier grade, got his contract, I think, in 2019 as a 24-year-old. So, and when he made the transition into Super Rugby, the difference between a really good game and a bad game for Jock is so small. Mm-hmm. He's quite consistent at what he does, and and I have no doubt that he will step up to this next level if given the opportunity, exactly how he has.
Mate, he'll kill it. We saw Fraser McWright added as well, Dow. That was always going to come, you'd have to say. But the big one is Rory Arnold has been added. Obviously, we needed some second rowers after late injuries. Jed Holloway, Darcy Swain's still got that red, maybe. Might have one more game, or is he back?
Yeah.
With 2 games. But then we saw Caden Neville, and we've got all those other injuries and so on. But with Samu missing, I think a player of his experience, especially in a position where we were actually lacking, was absolutely massive.
Yeah, I think he's a big in. I didn't think they expected him until later in the year, and if they were
he was back for his brother's wedding apparently,
and
they got him.
Yeah,
Stick around.
It was just a ruse. His brother's not getting married. He just wanted to come home. It was all set up by Rugby Australia.
If they're all fit, he might not have been there. If Samu was playing, they
Yeah.
might have kept the 3 internationals that they have. But I think the experience he brings, over these next couple of games against Argentina is going to be massive for the squad. I think it'll be huge.
The inclusion of Ire Simone is a weird one for mine because he's signed with, was it La Rochelle? Clermont. I always just throw one French club out there and hope it sticks out. I don't know. It's all the same shit, different smell. But he's signed over in France. So is that just a sign of maybe just they are low in those stocks, or a sign of his form, or
He's good.
he's gun. Not saying, but they also picked Lalakai Fiketti. We still have Hunter Paisami, Len Stiffy-Tau. We do have plenty of centres there that could probably fill that role.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they go with to fill the void that Samu's left. I'm interested to get our guest view. Willie, who, in your opinion, takes Samu's jersey or fills that void at 12 for the Wallabies?
I think if you go like for like, you probably chuck Hunter in there because he brings that same physical presence, and he can also ball play. Probably not as well as I'd say Samu can, but he has the potential to be a good ball player with a lot of skill at that level. And he's very good defensive. He's probably a little bit better and has the edge on Samu defensively because he reads the game so well from that perspective. But I think it depends on combinations. I think Ikitau will probably be the 13. I think he's a very, very good player.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they've obviously spent a bit of time at 12 and 13. So I think the big thing is whether Quaid comes back in at 10. Because I think they missed his leadership and his guidance.
I was about to ask that next.
Out there. You saw when he came back and played during the Rugby Championship last year.
How good was he?
Just a cool, calm head. Like when they had penalties, when they kick him for touch, he's calling the plays. He's making sure people understand their roles. And I think, like the Wallaby team as it is, I reckon they'll come World Cup time, they'll be a genuine threat. But they still need that leadership and that guidance to make sure that they're headed in the right direction. I think someone like Quaid really brings that to the group. So I dare say he'll probably be back in that number 10 jersey, and then I think Hunt will probably jump in at 12, having had a bit of experience there as well.
I'm interested to get your perspective. If Quaid comes back in at 10, we discussed this the other week, do you stick with another older head with Nick White at 9, knowing that Quaid is going to provide that composure and guidance around the field? Or do you go with someone like a Tate McDermott?
No, you got to keep Whitey.
You got to keep Whitey?
Whitey's probably been, along with Marika, has been the best player in that team.
Gun.
I honestly reckon, and I don't say world class very lightly because I feel like everyone's world class according to people's standards these days. He's genuinely been world class. You can notice when he doesn't play. You can notice when they take him off. They lose direction, even when Quade's out there, because a lot of their game is structured around the 9 making decisions on whether to play left or right. They, like having spoken to Quade, they're very structured in the sense that, say, when they get kick receipts or when they're playing off set piece, they know where they've got to be on the field, so they've got numbers everywhere that they are. But then it's then on the 9 to then decide whether he goes back to the short side, the open side, plays out the back wide, or kicks. And you need someone who's in that position who can make the right decision more often than not. And I think he's been doing that really well for the Brumbies, and he's been doing that really well for the Wallabies. And I think you really notice when he comes off the field, they lose direction.
Do you guys notice that they've been playing heaps on the short side lately? Does anyone know? Why do they do that? I'm not really sure why. You know what I mean? Like, because it just seems like sometimes.
Is this a question from your ABC reporter friend?
I'm now a journo. I'm basically a journo now. So.
Why or more?
No, I just noticed it heaps. I was like, oh.
So a lot of the times, if you look at England, and when you play against teams that tend to fan out, a lot of the times they want to fan out and put line speed on you, but on the open side.
Yeah.
So if you can catch them on the short side, you make meters slowly and slowly. Then the defense has to bunch up again, and then you can create the opportunities on the open side.
Yeah,
Wasn't a dumb question.
That's it.
Was not a dumb question.
Well, mate,
it solves everything.
what are your thoughts on the strategic replacement with 10 to go of halfbacks if that halfback isn't actively like gassed?
Playing shit.
'Cause I remember when we used to be 10 minutes left on the clock, we're either up by 5 or within striking range of winning a game, and then we look over and you're on the bench going, and you not a bead of sweat, and it's like, why did they take Will off? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on?
I think, first of all, I think the game's a lot faster now. And they've got a lot more sports science involved where they can read your heart rate and see what your meters per minute are and your max velocity. And then when they start to see things drop, you got to balance those decisions on that data as well as like the eye test. Is he still taking the right options? Is he still reading the game well, or is he too fatigued at the point where he's making bad decisions and he's too slow?
I didn't ever knew that.
Yeah, a lot goes into it, eh?
There's a lot that goes into it. Like, and then I hate coming off, so like I'd be like, why'd you take me off?
I used to notice that. Look at the clock. I don't know. I'm off.
Yeah.
Just a little face of.
Then they'd show me the data and be like, yeah, I should have come
And then
off
also
10 minutes ago.
sometimes the replacement that would come on for you. Like, why is he on?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all that.
Ask him the question at the Reds, he never came off.
Yeah.
Like poor Ben Lucas would say, Lucas was like, "Well, come off, mate." And he goes, "No, go back."
No, the best
Fair enough.
best thing about Link was I'd tell him before the game, I was like, "Don't take me off, I'm not coming off."
Not coming off.
And I'd be like, I'd be cramping with 10 minutes to go. I wouldn't be getting the breakdowns, and he wouldn't take me off.
He did it with Robbie Deans as well. He said, "Mate, come out." He goes, "No, you stay
No, I'm
there."
good. I'm good.
Benny Lucas.
Yeah.
Will.
I was younger then, so I was a little bit fitter than what I am now. Now it's like 60 minutes. Yeah, take me off.
That's crazy. That's good insight, though.
Yeah, the
And
only
realize
reason
it's
Ben Lucas has his Mr. Fix-It tag is because they had to put him somewhere because you wouldn't come off. They're like, yeah,
Well,
put him on the wing.
No, they put him,
I don't know.
He's actually
Stick
a
him at
halfback.
fullback. Who gives a
Bloody,
shit?
Will won't come off.
They used to put him at 10, and then Ian Pryor, I think, everyone says he won a Super Rugby premiership, but he played like 2 minutes all year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, did he really?
And Frisbee as well. Poor Frisbee.
Well, Frizz played wing.
Because you want to
12,
swap?
10, back.
Get off.
The funny thing is, whenever he came on, I'd be like, all right, I'll play 10. But then when it's defense, you defend at 10. I'm going back to halfback.
Pickle wouldn't have cared, though.
Nah, he's like, yeah.
fine, mate.
No, Pickle's the best.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'll do it.
Frisbee's good, man.
Yeah, he's good gas, man.
He let me shave his head on his first tour to South Africa, and his hair's never grown back since.
Have you seen his ass?
Oh, man. It was
His
hairy.
ass? Oh, mate.
That's where all the hair started growing.
I know.
Drop down the back.
Kind of looks like Sid off Ice Age.
He does. Yeah, he does.
I was at the Classic Wallabies last year. Funny story. Now T goes, "This is the guy with the hairy ass." I said, "Yeah, it's him. It's Frisbee." I said, "Frisbee, we're in a bar. It's Frisbee. Can you just go to the toilet and show?"
Oh God,
Tikiri your ass. He pulled down his pants. in the middle of the bar.
Yeah, he does that.
He just popped out.
It's like something popped out.
It's just a throw.
It was like Willie's head just.
Yeah, braided.
It was funny.
He's got dreads in there.
That's so good. That's awesome. Sorry, Pick.
Just got stitched up so bad. Poor bastard. We'll have to get him on the show. He's good gas, Pickle Frisbee. And then one last thing as well. So Luke Jones has just signed a 3-year deal with the Reds. So he'll be available for Wallaby selection. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe during the Rugby Championship he may get a call up. And then Tino was saying Jack Debrasini's been confirmed he's signed to the Brumbies as a backup 10 or, as support for Noel Olesio. So that's got to be absolutely huge, Dal. He's been awesome for West Harbour.
He's been really impressive. I still think he's probably short of a run, but I think his experience he's brought down to them down there has been massive. Obviously, they're looking at like a different side. And I think for the Brumbies, adding his experience there has been pretty impressive as well. They've been hunting for a while, and having him in there, I think would be good.
Yeah.
How old is he?
29.
Oh, yeah, chuck him in.
Yeah, bloody
Bit of
oath.
a pre-season, be sweet.
Yeah, he'll be sweet. But, mate, if you've seen him playing for West Harbour the last few weeks, he's been an absolute game changer for them out of Concord, man. So, absolutely huge. And Luke Jones is a good get for us, I'd have to say. Probably, and he probably brings something a little bit different than, your Angus Blythe and so on. Like, they're real hard toilers. He's probably got a little bit more line out now and stuff like that as well. So, I think he'll be a really good inclusion, Luke Jones. But who cares about them? Well, let's talk about the old Reds. How good is this? We've got two 2011 Super Rugby Championship winners coming in, sitting on the battlers bench. I remember I was there. I was meant to be at an engagement party, and I was just like, well, I'm definitely not going. There's no way I'm going. And he's like, yeah, man, I get it. Like, I don't want to go either. He didn't want to go. And then I was front row, right behind the goalpost, section 310. Cry my eyes out as we won. How good was that? I mean, what was that? 11 years ago. But Will, would that be? I'll get your thoughts as well, Digby. But is that highlight of career sort of stuff? Winning that 2011 Super Rugby trophy.
I mean, it's definitely up there. It's my highlight would probably be like being able to play 100 tests for Australia.
I guess that's all right.
No.
No,
because that to me that was really special because like everybody says you never expect to play one, but you never do. But I honestly can't remember it. It's been that long ago. I've never watched the game. I try not to watch the try. No, I tell you,
you know when you score that try the minute though. Remember?
I watch replays of games from 2010 because that was my favourite season. My all-time favourite season.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah,
because we had no expectation and we were 22 years old.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and we just went out there and played and had fun.
Yeah. That was a fun year of footy,
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a career highlight. The one thing I remember the most out of everything was obviously like when I went to score that try, like when I made the break and went downfield, like that roar. I've never heard anything like that before.
It was so good.
Like it was deafening. And then I just remember thinking to myself, when I was running, I was like, surely I'm getting caught here. I need to find someone to pass to. And then no one wanted to tackle me. I was like, fuck, I'm going to go all the way.
They were sort of just ushering you towards the sideline.
Yeah, if you speak to Zach Guilford, Sean Maitland, he says like he didn't think I was going to get there as well, so he didn't chase as hard. And then eventually when he thought I was getting there, he started a sprint and I was already there. So that's what I was saying. It was just a fluke.
Idiot. What a loser.
That's the one thing I remember the most is just how special it was for the crowd because we've all been long-suffering Queensland fans, and having played for them I started in 2007. We were getting, 5,000 people at Suncorp. Eddie Jones is spraying us, telling us to give our match payments back. Jim Tucker was
right,
money, Will.
Jim Tucker was telling us how terrible we were. We're a disgrace.
What, to your face?
No, in the paper. And those are the days where that's where you read it. So
I saw him on the weekend and he saw me with a media pass and he was just like, what the fuck is he?
What has this world come to?
I think that was the... I mean, it sounds wanky, but that was the thing I remember the most. It's just how special it was for the crowd, for the people, for everyone. It was definitely a moment in time I remember.
And Digby, yourself, like that was, I think, Will touched on it. 2010 was an exciting year of footy. There was zero expectations, and that was sort of the catalyst for that 2011 championship. It actually started the year before because it was just free flowing and it was exciting. Yourself, Will, Quay Cooper, it was just hell for leather. Just do what you want.
I think being retired for 3 years, I think that will be up there. I think what I'll take away from that year is just my teammates, like just hanging out with Dale, Ados. I think it's the mateship that you go through, that struggle when you lose a game. The guys beside you are these guys. You know, they'll go to battle with you. So, and it's just, I think winning. I think we're only allowed to drink if we win games. Oh, and do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then if we lost, we weren't allowed to go out. Like we'll just go. Like, coach with link with us, mate. Go back home. We schedule on a Monday. Then we back with all the boys, and then we play, win. Then we're back on the horse.
So that's why West was so shit for so long.
The thing is, the best thing about Link had like 2 rules. He said turn up on time and wear the right gear. Yeah. And the expectation is when you come to training, you fucking work hard. So because he kept it real simple, it allowed us to build a culture around just hard work and competitive. We were so competitive with each other. Yeah. And then it goes back to what he's saying is he said, look, if you guys win, celebrate, go have a beer, but then the rule kicks in, turn up on time, wear the right gear. And we did. Like, it's funny, like, we sank so much piss in 2011. Yeah. like, sank so much piss.
And
we was very good.
It was
Fuck science.
Yeah. It was a mixture, though. Like, we had all the old boys, like Wadiki, Wallace. Yeah. We had
I think that was the beauty of it.
The middle age was
mix,
like myself with Peter Hines, and then you got these guys. But no one was bigger than the group. Everyone was just all equal, and that's what I.
There's a good story about Quaid. So like in 2010 when we were playing really well, he probably started to get a bit carried away and think that he could do whatever he wanted to. And we had a team meeting, and Leroy Houston stood up and said,
"Nah, man, well, that was
2011.
That was 2011.
Yeah, it was
after
2011.
we got smoked by the Waratahs.
Yeah, so 2010 we'd obviously played really well. And then come 2011, he's probably. And he'd admit it too, so I'm not saying anything that he wouldn't appreciate. But he was probably carrying on a bit, and Leroy Houston stood up in the team and he said, listen, bro, you got to pull your head in. Like, you're carrying on, like, you can treat us however you want and carrying on with being disrespectful and being a bit of a pork chop. And that was sort of culture that we created, was you could be honest with each other and sort of have a go at each other, but understand that it was for the betterment of the team. And that was like a turning point for us, because we like Digby's saying, everything was about the team. You could be competitive as hell, spray each other, get in fights. Like Quaid and Rocket would always nearly be throwing punches, but it was all because we wanted to be better.
Who would win that fight?
Rod Davies, wasn't he?
Rod
Queensland
Davies, surely.
Junior.
Yeah,
he's got that look in his eye,
I'm not
Rod.
gonna say.
Yeah, depends where the fight takes place.
Yeah, right.
They'd probably both be nude at a bar. If
If it was at Fridays, maybe.
The pickle frisbee's reffing it. What's going on here?
Loser has to see my ass beard.
No, my arse dreads.
Oh.
No, but I think that's the thing. Touching on what he was saying, that's the thing you remember the most, is like all the hard work that went into it, because the culmination of it obviously is you get to win, but you never remember. That's what I'm saying. Like you don't really remember the game or lifting the trophy. You actually remember like the trainings on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday each week that went into it, and that's what you get enjoyment from, I think.
And remember, like weekly, Link there was always something that he would add in to the preparation of the week. You know, there was always a goal, that we'd have to achieve. Like when they went to South Africa that year, they'd never won, whether it was 2 games or never beaten the Stormers at Cape Town. So that was the challenge for that week. The Brumbies in Canberra, round 3, like we'd never beaten them down there. So it always set little goals, and then you tick them off. And then as a group, I think that was a really important way to start building belief within everyone's like, hey, hang on, people talk about your daily habits. You wake up, you make your bed, and you've accomplished the first thing, and then you go on and you attack something else. And I think when you look back at it now, it's like that's what Link was sort of creating in the background. And then by the pointy end of the season, the guys just had that much belief in what we were doing, had, ticked off so many little goals and climbed so many little mountains on the way that, as Will said, it just culminated in the win. Like it was like there was no other way it would go.
Yeah.
Than the Reds after the previous 18 months. It was awesome.
Do you reckon it's a bit of a shame that we still don't have Mackenzie in the fold coaching in Australia because
100%.
Yeah.
he
Huge
was at the
loss.
he was at the Waratahs, I think, before Reds, yeah, and he did the same, pretty much the same thing, and then Reds. I think did we get the wooden spoon almost the year before?
We were shit
2009,
house for a while.
and then
2009 we
2010.
were terrible. 2010 we came 5th.
Yeah, and then 2010
11.
you guys got just out of the 4,
Yeah.
and then
11
the
we
next
won
year-
it.
Yeah.
12 and 13 we made. 12 we made the quarters and 13 we made the quarters.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff that went on behind closed doors. It's probably not the right place to discuss in
exactly
terms
right,
of the
yeah.
fallout with him.
I would say that.
Yeah.
I was like,
oh,
here we
God.
It's on India, easy. But I agree. Like he's like what Dos was touched on. He was incredible at motivating a group and building a culture in like the most simplest ways. And I think his tactical nous was excellent.
It really was.
Little things around like whenever we play the South African teams, for example, he would say we're not kicking the ball out and we're running everything because we're going to tire them out. You look into the science around ball in play and things like that. Take quick taps.
Yeah, remember, and then when we played the Kiwi teams, and I've said it on this show a couple of times, he talked about attacking vertically through them.
Yeah,
we wouldn't spread the ball.
Yeah.
And I speak about that to teams these days. You know, do you adapt your playing style according to who you're playing? And no one really does it. But I think because those years at the Reds, those 3 or 4 years that I spent there, we had the luxury of having Willie and QC directing us around, so we could adapt on the run.
Yeah,
because they was smart enough rugby guys to be able to do it. But yeah, you don't see it happening these days, and I think it became like the norm for me looking in and being there. I was like, oh yeah, all right. So it's normal to have a different game plan this week and then go in with a totally different game plan this week. But it's not really, and I mean, it just speaks to how special that group was.
So touching on the England point where you were saying like playing a lot on the short side. So I learnt that from Ewan McKenzie.
Yeah.
So when we played the Chiefs, they never committed numbers to the ruck and they would rush.
Yeah.
So his thing was like, people think that we just have to pick and go close to the line, but
Yeah.
what we're going to do is we're going to go vertical, pick and go through them, and then once we suck them in, I want you to play to the short side.
Yeah.
Because then a lot of the times when teams want to rush, they stack the open side.
Yeah.
So if you ever go back and watch those games around that time, we would just go through the middle, play short side, go through middle, play short
Yeah.
side. Once we got them behind them, and we're moving forward, then we play it to the backs.
Yeah.
And then the other beauty about it was like we had 2 calls. Broncos was play narrow and Chiefs Cowboys was play wide.
Yeah.
That was it. And then Chiefs was play off 10 and Bulls was play
Bulls
off
off
9.
9.
And then a lot of it was then dependent on myself and Quade, depending on if we wanted to play short side, open side. And
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because I see them attacking the short side. I'm like, there must be a reason for this. I just didn't know what it was. But yeah, that's awesome. That's why I love Union. It's so tactical and, you've got to be smart.
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot more to it. Like there's some nuance.
If you're a half.
Yeah,
if you're in the halves.
Rugby league is very Franks and beans. It's just straight up and down. It's like basketball with tackle.
Yeah.
But I want to get your thoughts on the current state of the game. And we were just saying before that the world game as a whole is absolutely going Godzilla. Like Georgia just knocked off Italy. They've won the Six Nations second division for the umpteenth time in a row. You've got Ireland's now absolutely ballooning up. France is killing it. It looks like the game is growing as a whole around the world. Australia looks like it's starting to get its shit together. Like, what are your thoughts on the game in Australia at the moment, and do you think it is going to start getting up to where it clearly is going worldwide?
I think worldwide, obviously, the game is as a whole is getting better because you're seeing all the teams start to be a lot more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to Dale's point where he's saying the World Cup's going to be the best yet, I agree because it'll be so much more competitive all across the board. And you look at the Super Rugby, the fact that we've got the Drua and Moana Pacific coming in, that gives pathways to local talent from the Pacific Islands that wouldn't necessarily get that if they didn't make the Reds or the Brumbies or the teams in New Zealand. And you're seeing just how much talent is out there that's getting the exposure. And then because they get that exposure, when they go back and play for Fiji, Samoa, or Tonga, those teams are better again. Or if they get picked up to go play overseas and they qualify for those nations, those teams become better again. I just think sports science also helps with the level of the athlete as well, like diet, nutrition, new ways of training. The game just looks so much faster. They're more athletic, they're bigger, they're stronger.
More
they're
physical,
fitter.
hey?
Yeah, like I watch and I just think, fuck, I'm glad I'm not playing.
Well, Digby, you've played all around the world as well. You've applied yourself in Japan, France, Australia, all that sort of stuff. Where do you reckon, or at least during your career, what was the sort of distinct difference between sort of the Northern Hemisphere game and down here in the Southern Hemisphere, in particular Super Rugby? Because there's a lot of that chat that, you know, New Zealand's now coming back to Australia. Oh, we want all the teams involved. And like, there's a bit of discontent, I guess you could say, between New Zealand and Australia in regards to the Super Rugby setup. We've now got obviously the Pacific Island nations joining in and stuff like that. I don't know, like what did you see? The French game and in particular the Northern Hemisphere club scene is just so. It is just so profitable, just so good. It is just growing and adapting so well. Like, what is that? What are they doing different there that we're doing here?
I believe France, because there's so many teams over there, and you've got so many good players, and it starts with the clubs, because they're buying players out of, like, everyone's playing the game, and you got people from Italy, from Ireland, they're all playing that French comp, so they're playing so much footy. But if you actually look deeper within New Zealand and Australia, they're only two countries playing against each other, and they know, the structure of how they play. So once they, like, I'm just waiting for All Blacks and Australia, when they play against each other, they're only playing against these two teams. But if you look at the Six Nations, they're playing different teams every time. So that's why you question it. That's why we need players like Moana, the Pacific Islands that come in to help, you know, us as a nation, because we need to adjust from these other teams from Europe. So it's so good for us to go on spring tour, because we need to adjust how they play, because we're so used to playing against New Zealand.
Yeah.
And New Zealand, we're not doing New Zealand a favour. We played them so many times. They play against these guys in Europe. Man, it's just different game. It's a different game plan, because we're so used to playing. All Blacks are so used to playing against Australia. When they play teams against over in Europe, mate, they struggle, because we haven't tested them to their max, and that's where I feel sorry for the All Blacks, because you got to get. Oh no, I'm just saying.
We don't say that here.
You know, All Blacks or even us as the Wallabies, we need to play more games against. Like, look at France. France came with a third diff, and I know a couple of the players, and they almost beat us. Was it last year?
Oh, last
year.
Yeah, they had. It was like
that wasn't even their.
They were
team.
unreal.
Then they pumped. They pumped the Kiwis.
It just shows their club level, they can play at that level, like international, even though that's not even their best team.
And
so it's so important, though.
Yeah, and it's such a diverse game as well. And they for the better part of 20, 25 years have been getting, like, we have Australian teams have Australian players, Kiwi teams have Kiwi players, South African teams have South African players. Like, you'll have a French side with, like, a Georgian next to an Italian next to half a dozen Frenchmen, and then a Tongan and a Fijian and a Samoan, so they learn all these different styles of footy.
That's part of the problem. I think I said this, Quade and I were having a chat. I was saying, imagine how much better the game would be if you just said Aussies and Kiwis could play for any of the Super Rugby teams.
Yeah, a draft system, like a draft system. We were talking about this,
because then, like, I find the problem with the game from a Super Rugby perspective is, like, at the moment there's no characters in the game that people, like, either aspire to or just want to go and watch. Do you know what I mean? So, like, you look at rugby league as an example. Like, there's characters all over the game, and as the media in doing the NRL, they market those characters. They push them out there.
That's what the PAC Show's for, man.
That's
what the PAC Show's for.
That you create those, like, heroes, those villains for people to be able to follow. And I think imagine if Beauden Barrett was playing for the Reds.
100%.
Imagine if, like, back in the day, Ma'anonu was playing for the Brumbies. Like, you then bring in
It'd
a
be
new
better
fan
for the
base.
game.
Mate, you bring in a new fan base.
Yep.
So from a marketing perspective, it's better. But then from a, like, the competition's perspective, the talent is then spread equally, and it's a better competition.
Yeah.
Everyone will get better.
100%. Like, imagine what, like, say, Noah Lolosio or who's the 10 at the Reds might learn from Beauden Barrett, or Richie Mo'unga if he was playing for, I don't know, the Force or
but
you're
then you'd
right.
also have, like, you'd have guys like, for example, at the Reds, we've got guys like Rongas riding Pine because we've got Fraser McRide, Harry Wilson, and Seta Udu absolutely killing it, or Angus Scott Young. He wouldn't have had to have gone over to Northampton. He maybe could have gone to a Kiwi side because he went down to Bay of Plenty and got Steamer of the Year or whatever like he was maybe better suited to that
keep
setup.
the talent
You'll keep the talent in Super Rugby.
Yeah.
You'll keep it in Super Rugby, and I promise you, it'd make a much better competition because it's more even. And it's interesting. Like you want to see, like, because when you go see the All Blacks, essentially you're just seeing when you see New Zealand teams play Australian teams, it's like it's All Blacks versus Wallabies, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like mix it up so that when we have Super Rugby, it's just different.
Man, you're onto something. That sounds brilliant.
Heard it here first. It's going to happen, guys.
You run it for us, Dal.
Yeah, Dal.
Get on
We'll get a
Dal and
proposal
Twiggy.
together this
Dal and
week.
Twiggy. I'll just be the tea boy. I'll just make you tea. I'll do it.
Just on that note,
I thought he meant like kicking tea, right?
Yeah, I thought he meant kicking
Both.
tea.
Make
from
tea
both
tea?
your perspective, what is the ideal scenario? Obviously, if you looked at merging Australia and New Zealand, you could play for whoever, but is there anything else that you would change? Do you know what I mean? Does Japan come into it? What does it actually look like, the ideal scenario to grow the game in the Southern Hemisphere?
I like the idea of Japan coming into it, but not as like a thrown together Sunwolves team, because there's no fan base, there's no culture, there's no environment that's like, if for example you bring in Panasonic or a Suntory, they bring with them a fan base. They bring
And a
with them
shitload of cash.
Well, yeah, I mean that, but they bring with them fan base, culture, and history. So that automatically adds to the competition, and it's like when you speak to all the guys that played for the Sunwolves, it literally was like a barbarians trip. It's like they're just there and they didn't have any cultural identity around what it meant to be to play for the Sunwolves, and they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
There was a difference between clubland and NRC.
Yeah.
You've got your clubland tribalism, and the NRC is
100%.
fabricated horse shit. Same with like the Sunwolves and Kamaishi Sea Waves, one of the most successful club sides in Japan ever. They shit their mutt everywhere through Kamaishi for that side.
But they did
100%.
They did bring like some Japanese good players too, the hooker, Gaki, and the prop to the Rebels, but they treated them like they were nothing. That's why I get pissed off, because these guys play for Japan, they went to the Rebels, and they didn't even give them game time.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so sad.
Yeah, Highlanders, they sort of utilised them pretty
Like that
well.
number 8.
Yeah, the
How good
number
was
8,
he?
the halfback would always come
Yeah,
on, and then
Yeah,
shot a
yeah.
Hori.
Well, he was there when they won the comp.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
number 8 last year was awesome.
Yeah, he was really good.
So that's the other thing I'd like to see is like rather than NRC and like, because again, when you make the NRC teams, what is it, Brisbane City, and again, you have no fan base, you have no history, you have no connection to anything. Whereas if you just said, well, and this is just me spitballing, if you got the best 6 teams in
100%, man.
in Sydney,
Yep.
Brisbane, best 4 in Perth, and I don't know, Canberra, whatever it is, and said you guys play off, and that's NRC, you bring with them like the fans, the
Can you
history, the
imagine,
tradition,
man?
and like, can you imagine like Sydney Uni coming down and
100%.
playing Jeeps, you talking shit on the sideline, yelling? No, but that's
I'll be cheering for Sydney Uni.
no, but that's my point. Is like
Yeah.
you have that fan base and that like tribalism.
Yeah.
100%. And then the teams that miss out, who miss out on the top
Promotion,
4,
relegation.
Yeah,
100%.
but there'll be, because there's good players in it, like really good players in every team stuck at a club that doesn't make the finals or
about
go
East.
into the next
You talk about
competition.
East.
Maybe talking about
What do
East.
East
Not
do?
talking about East, you're awesome. But then, being able to pull 2 or 3 guys out from one of those lower teams to strengthen that for when you play the Sydney Unis or what, man, I
It'd be
totally agree.
sick. It'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you got a couple of games, like, was it last year, the year before? You could sort of experience it again, like, everyone talking crap.
Mate,
and-
I loved it. I
Yeah.
honestly like I went back down there to play with my brother, and like just the atmosphere. It's the crowd's on top of you. You're yelling from the side. It's amazing, and that's something I think we need to tap into. I really believe that.
Because the fan base is there. It's just how how do you engage them to that next level, especially with.
I mean, it begs the question. Like, Rugby Australia obviously didn't send anyone into grassroots rugby to get feedback on what they think, what sort of competition, or in terms of creating that next tier, what they would like. Because I'm guarantee you, no one would have picked. Let's create these random teams who are based out of here, based out of there.
May as well just brought the Ballymore Tornadoes back.
Mate,
That was bloody hell.
don't spray them. I play. No, but I think that's a good point. It seems like we just try to copy the New Zealand model.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And
Rather
that's exactly it.
Yeah,
It's
rather than
let's
see
create
what
our-
works for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But you
but
can
that
sort of-
was created about 135 odd years ago.
But you
so
can sort of
there's
do
a
that,
very
though.
big difference
Yeah.
between
Exactly.
that
There's your
and
tribalism.
Brisbane City.
You can sort of do that though with the and have the 2 tiers. They have two tiers, I'm pretty sure, as well, and have that promotion.
They've
relegation.
actually got 4 or 5 tiers. You've got the Heartland competition with
Yeah.
guys like Mid Canterbury, West Coast, all that sort of stuff. So that is in their blood over there. That's been set up for a long time, and that's how it has been done. We can't replicate that. It's not overnight like we were attempting to do. So, all right, we're going to plough ahead because we got wrapped up in having a good old yarn there. That was good
That was
times.
good.
Feeling
Really
good. You're very knowledgeable of rugby, Will. Whenever we get guests on this show, I'm like, fuck, we know fucking nothing about the game, mate.
Yeah, I don't mind blown. Almost had an aneurysm.
But now it's time, without further ado, for the Battlers Bench.
No intro. Gotcha.
We're just getting to hurry up.
Straight up, Battlers Bench. We thought we'd start off with some dead ringers. Freens, why don't you start us off with the dead ringers?
Well, mate, yeah. Well, I was at work the other day, and I know that uni have fallen on tough times with a few losses today, and I had a double take. I thought I saw Mick Heenan on site.
Who is that dude?
That's Nick. So obviously he knows. Obviously he knows got some explaining to do. I think he might have been in Townsville about 30 years ago. But yeah, the old labourer at work. I'm like, mate, like have a look at this guy. Have a look at this guy. You look exactly like him. He goes, holy shit, man, that looks like my dad. And I was like, you're correct.
So did you get that guy to pose for photos for you?
Yeah.
Was he like, what are you doing?
I showed him Hino.
Okay.
I showed him Hino. I go, mate, I think.
Did he see it?
Yeah.
Like he went, oh, I get it.
Yeah, he was like, holy fuck, man.
He looks pretty rapt to be.
Yeah, he looks
creeping
chuffed
on
to
him.
be there.
I
They
love
have
it.
this.
And then after Freen sent me that, I then found on Facebook. So these two blokes play baseball. They're not related. They're both dead ringers for Mick Heenan. No, okay.
Yeah, no.
And then the next one was,
They have the same name
I remember
too.
there's a comedian over in America. Oh, no. Okay, here we go. Now now he looks even more like him, right? I put a little hat on him. Doesn't he look like Mick Heenan?
Yep.
And then
Free and easy.
And then next one was when you went down to.
So I watched the Hong Kong Tonga game and saw a couple of boys out. There's a big number 7, Luke Vandersmit.
He's a good-looking rooster.
Yeah, he's not.
What is that?
Another dead ringer I found. J-Bor. Whilst you were meant to be down in Sydney, this is what you were doing. And then I found one looked like Doss. Look at that. Hey! And then there's that looks like Dal, right? Ripping and the tearing.
They look like Pickles moves at a Mad Monday.
Yeah, right. Look at what he's got stuffed in the back of his chungers there. Now for some real content. So, Battle of the Beaches was happened on the weekend, and instead of we've renamed it Bachelor's Battle of the Beaches because the two people to get to cover for you, J-Ball, which we'll discuss later. We got Cass Wood from The Bachelor, who was on the Honey Badgers year, and then we had James Trethaway.
I try to stitch you up. It's Truthui, but
Truthui.
Try to say.
Here's just a brief, a little brief thing that Tino put together.
So you got the crowd behind you.
Yeah, especially down the hill.
Yeah,
mate. Any ball that gets down the hill that way, mate, you hear the most obscene things. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't bleep it out. Some of the shit that gets said.
Mate, you'll have to sit up down there.
Mate, get up on the hill. Honestly, you'll hear some things.
Yeah.
Tony Abbott was up there once. Made him skull, which was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good spot to watch the game. Trust me. Yeah, you can't be sober. If you're sober, mate, you'll leave there a different man.
Hey, my name's Cass, just down here at the Battle of the Beaches. We're at the famous Manly Hill. Today's the 100th game derby game, so enjoy it. How are you feeling?
Pretty good. Feel like Marlon's going to win at least 50-0.
50-0.
50-0 easily.
Show off your haircut too.
Rats or flogs. Manly's always been the better team. It's just a bunch of flogs, so go Manly.
It's a good game, but gee, this field stinks. The players here stink. The club stinks. I don't like it here in Manly. I don't know much what more to say. It's just the place is pissed off.
I played for fourth grade. I'm a fourth grade veteran. We won. Fourth grade had a solid win, and at the end of the day, no one actually cares about first grade. It's all about fourth grade.
I want to thank the Marlins for being Manly Marlins. Thank you for being great hosts. All of your mothers are wonderful women. All right. I want to thank all of them for attending today. All right. They absolutely make my nights. Every single night out. I love them.
I love how they just start rinsing.
Yeah.
Hey, Manly, it's a big stuff.
Manly dude's like, oh yeah, it's going to be a good game, blah blah blah, and the Rats dude's just like, These sons of bitches, man, just starts hosing them. That's good gas.
I love
Tino
the
said
classic
it was
fourth grader that's like, I play fourth grade. I'm a fourth grade legend. It's like, anyone that says that is not a fourth grade legend.
He sucks at footy. He would have been like big note himself.
But J-Ball, where were you during that video? Because Tino, you went down, right? You were meant to go down with J-Ball. Is that's right? What happened?
Yeah, I was. I
happened?
was meant to go down and do your job for you, do the Battlers
did
bench
you
job
tell
for
him?
you.
Excuse me,
As per
excuse me,
usual, I would have
excuse me, this is our segment.
Just absolutely do everything
This is our
for this show.
segment.
This is our segment. Can you...
Oh, okay, so you don't want me to answer your question?
No, not really. So Tino got down to Sydney and then you said you're not coming, right? Is that what happened?
That is true.
Oof.
I would never do that to you, Gravy.
Not again, right? Oh, you right, Tino? Nah.
All right.
Oh, this is awkward.
Maybe you can
This rule
organise it next time, Das.
it's our segment.
Okay, segment's over. I got sick. I
here
got
we
sent
go.
home from work sick. My flight ended up getting cancelled anyway. I do everything for this show. Absolutely
it.
everything. This show would be
is-
nothing
That's
without
what
me.
it is. Throws in
And
our
I
face.
can't believe it. No.
And then
I was sick. I got a bit sick.
And then on a Monday night, you ate, what, a 2 kilo bag of rice crackers?
I had to get my
Oh, I'm
carbs
sick.
back up.
Yeah, okay. Get your strength back up.
He just needed
Let's
to get
play
you
our
back
hand.
from all those questions. Remember, Dusty, you got a question?
Yeah, exactly. I'll just continue asking
He
all
got
the
like,
questions to
he was
Darcy,
in your
just
head.
sit there.
He was in your head.
over.
He was
All
in your
right,
head.
let's move ahead then. Let's try and wrap this up ASAP. Couple of footy matches from the weekend. Big old boilovers left, right and centre. Let's start with the big one. Well, we saw Souths 12, Brothers 47, Sunnybank 17, Jeeps 45. We were anticipating that. We were going to look into West 20 over Bond 15, but
Let's look into it.
No, let's plow ahead. North's 24, East 21.
God.
How good was this game of footy, Dos?
Man, I'm lost for words. You know what? You know what?
What?
I was actually down. I went down there to present the first grade their jerseys.
Oh, that's what the problem was.
Makes sense.
I think that's where it all went wrong. Obviously, not inspirational enough for the boys. Man, to be fair, North's actually were pretty good. I think
Mate, they didn't lose to Brothers by much the week before.
No,
Like,
and
they're
they
sort of-
and they nearly beat the Heavies. I mean, they're a team, and they'll probably upset a couple. Let's hope they upset a couple more teams over the next 5 rounds. But mate, they're a team. You know, they're stubborn. They forced East into the scrap. You know, the scrappy game that they like and they thrive off. I mean, the winger got a runaway try earlier on in the second half. Yeah, mate, their 9 and their 12 were impressive.
Connor O'Regan, yeah.
Yeah.
Jack Peoples.
Yeah.
Their 10, Harry Langbridge, came down
And
from
he
the
was-
Dolphins.
he was very good
There's
as well.
nothing better than a wiry 10 with a shit chop, eh?
Yeah.
You know he'd be a bit of a mongrel. And apparently chops tons of piss off the field too.
Man, so unexpected. He was actually the 9, 10, and 12. I must say, they were brilliant, and they've got a couple of big poppers in the front, in the forward pack, and I think East they lost. They didn't have Papin or Melly Drew going into the game. You know, when you lose your 10 and 15, I think it's going to obviously have an impact on the way that they play. But yeah, mate, hats off, hats off to North. Hats off to
You didn't do it. I was going to do it. And there was a lot of, and then I presented the jerseys and that centre back.
Big Kieran Fitz.
hats off to North.
Did I hear correctly that Ben Mowen has made an official complaint?
I have no idea.
Against his forward pack for not showing up. Was that
Big Kieran Fitzgibbon, the big prop. He
80-minute game.
Yeah,
Mate.
posted after the games like one win after 12 games. They're just fucking sending it. So good.
Are they current Bunter Bowl?
They hold the Bunter
They
Bowl
hold the
now,
Bunter Bowl.
yeah.
They drank alcohol
All
out
of it.
of that.
They drank
Yeah.
all the alcohol.
They
out of it.
will just be.
Good on
They
them.
will christen the hell out of
Tiger
that thing
blood.
because I don't think they're going to have it much longer. But good on them, man. They
Yeah.
did you boys in, DOS,
Mate, they
and
sure
suck
did.
a fat one. That was a good one, man. That was it was enjoyable watching
Yeah, all right,
that
move
one.
on. Shoot shield.
All right.
He always
Shoot
takes it
Shield
very
round
well.
16. South's 19, North's 28. So it sees North's go to the top of the ladder now. East 48, Gordon 20. Eastwood 26 over Uni 21. Massive there. Hunter 21-22 going down to Randwick. West Harbour and the Two Blues on Friday night out at Tweedale playing a 21-all draw. This was a hell of a game of footy. Jack Debrasini with an 83rd minute shot at goal. Shits the bed.
Oh.
Poor bastard. But mate, there's a couple of guys on that Two Blues side. I think it's the brothers at 9 and 10, Reloy and Reese Suisui, mate. They were awesome, and then Reese went off with an injury halfway through the first half, resulting in them not scoring any more points. Tough one. But, mate, that was a hell of a game of footy. But the one we want to discuss, Manly 20, Rats 22, Battle of the Beaches. Dow, what are your thoughts on this one?
I don't know. It was tough. Obviously, Manly got out to a bit of a lead to start with, and it looked like they were pretty composed and playing some good footy. But then Warringah just stuck at it, and physically up front, they really took it to them. Obviously, the tight head prop scored a hat trick.
Yes,
scored a
Sateki
hat trick.
Latu.
Yeah, Latu was immense for them, and I think up front is where they ended up winning it. They just went toe to toe. They were aggressive with them, and also I think the physicality that they brought. You know what I mean? A bit of niggle. And they just ended up running over the top of them.
Mate, Tino was saying, on Sunday night, he was like, you will not understand just this rivalry, brother. Like,
You should have been here.
He's like, you should have been here, man. I was struggling. But he said
You should have
6,000
been here.
people. The banter was ridiculous. These guys hate each other. And you see it on the field. The niggle was massive.
Fair few
And
scuffles.
the game was very well poised for the front rowers because all 5 tries were scored by props on the day. Ivan Fapulii for the Marlins, picking up the other 2 for Marlins. But this was old school footy. This was it. Like
in terrible conditions as well.
It was a
Fucking horrible.
shithole covered in mud, stinks blowing up all over the place. 2 sides, 2 big teams just beating the ever living piss out of each other, and it was awesome. Like that right there, despite the conditions, was just an awesome representation of what we were talking about. We're like the whole, you get that tribalism. Like that's what you need to capture. You need to capture that in a bottle, not Western Sydney Rams or whatever they were called, Greater Sydney Rams and shit. Like that's what we need to get. But
mate, that's exactly right. And we speak to Diggers' point before about like rugby players getting exposed to different environments. Everyone. We talked lately about the Queensland Premier Comp being a bit younger than the Shoot Shield. Like, just imagine later on in the year, Jeeps getting to go down to the Rats, playing them in a home and away fixture, and getting that exposure to that the Sydney club rugby tribalism that they have down
Everyone
there.
would love to do it. Just make a weekend of it. Go down, get on it Friday night, watch the game Saturday night, maybe even a Sunday sesh. It'd be good. Everyone would be.
When do they watch the game?
There's no game.
Yeah.
No, it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome.
You could distinctly see that because it was wet weather footy up here as well, and we saw Bond and West play. 2 top sides go against each other, and the Rats and the Marlins, 2 top sides going against each other, and the conditions were similar, like shit, soggy, and all that sort of stuff. But you saw the Sydney game; they are so much bigger. Like they are just
100%.
like the back row from the Rats. Charlie McKill, I think it is. Alex O'Dell, like
They all look like that guy from Bond. Which
they
is
are juicy. Devin Henson.
Devin Henson.
Yeah.
Jeez, Devin Henson.
Yeah, like
just big lads.
Yeah, you could just see that their game is on a different level in regards to that physicality that we discussed. All right, let's wrap this up now. It's time for our rugby segment. Where we obviously run through who our rugby was from the weekend just gone. And Friends, yours out of Hong Kong.
Tommy Hill, mate, incredible. He was those massive shots getting put on, and he was. And you think he's going to get shotted? Boom, get off me. Balls.
Ended up getting blindsided there.
It's not bad. No, he made the advantage line a fair bit, considering the big honkers boys. They didn't really want to run the ball towards the end of the game. Then there's a few kicks going through, but he just ran and went hard. So massive fan. He didn't drop his nuts, which is good.
It's good to see. White boys coming out of
Not
HK,
dropping his
putting
nuts.
on a clinic. Big fat Das, your rugby from the round just gone is Totai
Kefu. Mate, he's just brought back love for the game, especially over in Tonga. And someone commented, I think it was last week, said that he will not actively call someone that could be possibly part of the Wallaby setup. Like he respects, and that amount of respect he's brought through to his Tongan team. And they're all playing for each other and for a bit of love.
Mate, and they had an incredible amount of injuries. Like, I was talking to him after the game. Izzy Flowers out for like 12 weeks with his hammy. They had Tamani getting injured just in the warm-up or something like that, or the day before. All the boys were just getting injured. And so they were scraping together the rest of the side, and they still qualified. How good.
Good on them. Hopefully they can have another 18 months to really
there,
start to hit the ground running because they've got a hell of a pool they're going into. And speaking of Tonga, Dow, yours Sonatane Takalua. Absolutely awesome.
captain, obviously led the Sipper Towel here, and you could just see right from the get-go how ready he was. Scored 3 tries for them. Was exceptional around the ruck, just sniping, and just led them extremely well. I think he did a really good job with the referee, just asking the right questions, but led from the front brilliantly. He was awesome.
He is inspirational, and we saw him last year on the back end of that, drubbing at the hands of the... Was that last year or the year before? Maybe the emotion, as you said, leading that Sipper Towel, he was G'd right up. He was fizzing at the bunghole for it, and we saw the emotion on the other side of the coin after that dismantling by the All Blacks. Just his love for the game in Tonga. He is the sort of guy that they really need to build their game around.
100%. He was immense.
Did he play any Super Rugby?
I think he's been in France.
I know he's at Toulon now with Duncan. He seems like a really good dude. If you follow Duncan on Instagram, he's always playing tricks on this guy, and he reciprocates back.
He's
at
pretty
Duncan.
fresh. He's
But
pretty
yeah,
fresh.
seems like a pretty cool guy.
And then Dos, on your side, you wanted to go a couple of blokes, a couple of Wallabies going down to Clubland. Sully Vunivalu and James O'Connor lining up for the Doggies and Brothers respectively.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't watch any rugby over the weekend.
Glad we got you on a rugby show, mate.
You're at the East game, though.
But yes, I did. But I couldn't pick anyone out of that game. But yeah, I mean, it's just great to see Wallabies coming down back to club rugby.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting match fitness or whatever the reason is, they can't underestimate the impact that it has on the rest of the team. Having someone like Rabs going down to Brothers, playing in a crucial position like 12. He's got Stixie at 10. Who played at 13 outside him? Young Ash Watson. Just things that they would learn in that week leading up to the game. And then, in game, the way he reacts to situations and how he makes decisions, just invaluable for these guys. So I love to see it.
He was smooth, eh? He was pretty smooth.
Was he?
Yeah, he's really good.
And then mine, Sateki Latu from the Rats. We were discussing it just before. 3 tries from a tight head prop in a derby.
It's beautiful.
In muddy, stinky conditions and killing it. Look at that. Sexy stuff. I mean, it's not every day that a front rower scores a hat-trick, let alone in the 100th Battle of the Beaches. Look at them. They're just stinking on too. It's the best, man. It is the best to see. Tyson Davis just absolutely giving it to the Marlins there as well. But, yeah, as I said, 3 tries.
Look at the piggies, all filthy. It's just beautiful to watch. I'm rock hard.
Is that what
Speaking of which, when Will walked in, he was like, I was meant to call you suspenders.
Suspenders, yeah.
What was that? From the wedding photo.
Yeah.
Because of the old moose knuckle.
I deleted that off my Instagram.
I've still got that.
I think bring it up real quick.
I think we've all got a copy.
Yeah, I was like, a couple of days when I was like, you know what, this doesn't look great.
couple of days, mate. Ooh.
Yeah, you guys got my head. You heard my head noise.
Yeah, don't worry, we only put it on YouTube, so if anybody wants to see it, be sure to go to the PAC Athletic Club YouTube. And speaking of, be sure to go to the PAC Athletic Club YouTube. The only way this show gets out is if you like, subscribe, and share all our content, so please do go there. Get around the boys and help get the PAC Show where it needs to be.
Make rugby great again.
Indeed, make rugby great again. Will, Digby, thanks so much for joining us this evening, lads. It was absolutely awesome.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
The best. The absolute best. Big fat Das, friends. Wish I could say the same. Dos, Dallin, absolutely awesome as per usual. Tino, Zachy boy, we couldn't have done it without you. As I said, be sure to tune in next week, but also like, subscribe, and share all our content to get the PAC Show out there for the boys. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Ciao.